consecrated Passionist, but I feel, I belong in the Passionist family, and I've been with the Passionists since I was 6. Admittedly, that was only just a couple of years ago, but still, it's quite a long time. Bueno, en castellano, primero agradezco mucho la invitación esta, espero que no se arrepientan, y segundo, quiero decir que Lucía va a traducir al castellano porque generosamente y casi inconscientemente se ofreció a hacerlo y le resulta más fácil hacerlo al castellano. Segundo, que en muchos casos yo estoy hablando como en plural, como si fuera una de ustedes, y soy plenamente consciente de que no lo soy, pero es cierto que, como dice Angélica, pertenezco a la familia pasionista, y además estoy con los pasionistas desde que tengo 6 años. Y si bien eso pasó hace muy poquito, igual es un montón de tiempo. Apenas terminemos la cuestión técnica, empezamos. I noticed she smiled when I said just a couple of years ago.
I understood the Spanish and I was delighted.
I thought you were laughing at my just a couple of years ago.
I understood and I was are we getting a copy?
If you want, if you wish, I can send a copy back to you. We are using the overhead scripts just to give an idea of where we want the whole thing to be set. It's in English and in Spanish. You know this. Well, the end says your God. It can't be seen, but yes, Lucia says the configuration is different because it was planned for a different computer.
Slideshow. Yeah, go to slideshow. Slideshow. Keep going. Keep going. To the right.
Go.
Go.
There.
That. Yeah. View show.
Yeah.
No, we just need this.
Yes.
One at a time.
Yeah, there it is. They're done. And then you move it when you want.
Ah, isn't that brilliant? Some people are intelligent.
Exactly.
No way. Yeah. Well, let's start then. Point one, I'm going to sort of try to place the whole thing within what we are going to talk in the following 3 days. I won't be in charge of the 3 days, but just to give you an idea that it's a whole that we're working with. Point one, the framework we will work on will be Passionists for Life and the Jpic Passionist. In the first place, Passionists for Life, and it's number 3, says that, I'm reading because I don't want Lucia to have to translate things she has not seen. That's why I never follow a script, but I'll try, I do my best. Jpic says that it's central to the Passionist spirituality and our way of life today. And Jpic itself says that for Passionists to preach the cross means to awaken in others solidarity, and I want to stress that, with those who are suffering, and to question and resist movements and practices that impose crosses on others. Question and resist movements and practices, remember what Therese commented yesterday. The reflections we will work on are based on the interconnectedness between justice, peace, and integrity of creation. Unless we respect the rights and dignity of the whole community of life, there will be no justice. And lacking justice, peace is impossible. In the next 3 days, we will work. Day 1 on charism, the notion of paradigm, and the notion of crisis. The paradigm change involving a personal level, communal, and congregational dimensions. Day 2, we will work on an alternative way of life, our responsibility as consecrated women and citizens. Should we proceed along the current guidelines, or should we devise others based on the virtues needed to cope with the new reality we are facing and the future we wish to walk into? And in day 3, Cecilia will take, against the backdrop of what we have seen all these days, and particularly these 2, she will lead us along conversations for the journey in the hope of finding our way to this future we wish to walk into. So we start with today's, which is, we start with paradigm. Now, what is a paradigm? Mainly, it's a framework, what we take for granted. We lead our lives on the framework. Example, you all came this morning here because you expected to find this room and the chairs to sit on. Now, if we didn't know that things don't disappear over the night, we wouldn't have come. So a paradigm is very basic things we base our daily lives and science on. Our perspective, the lookout, which often we never question, is just, it's like that, it's given. We expect to see the sun rising in the morning and setting in the evening. Now, why do we say the sun is rising? Is it?
No.
No, but we still use that word because we go back to the very, very old paradigm which thought that the earth did not move. You understand? Now, we know that the earth spins and we take that for granted. But it was not always so. Galileo managed not to get burned at the stakes because he signed saying, well, yes, I know that it moves, but I will sign that it doesn't. And that's why when he finished signing, he said, eppur si muove. It moves. I signed it, but it moves. So scientists took a long time to admit this. And now we take it on for granted, although we say the sun rises. There comes a point when some of those frameworks, those paradigms, prove inadequate. The point is that we must keep our minds open to notice when they are no longer appropriate. And here is when conversion comes into the picture, a change in our perspective. You have the covenant of the Passion. It talks about transformation in point 41 and about continual conversion of heart, as well as shared responsibility in promoting justice. 47, we are not reinventing the wheel. We need to let go of old paradigms in order to take in new ones. Let go, to take in, there's no room for both. That prove more adequate to account for the reality that is around us. We have to see the reality that is around in point 1. Actual experience witnesses changes, as in the case of Galileo and his observations, well before theoretical explanations or science come up, admit the changes, and change the theories. But we won't take in new paradigms unless we shed the old ones. And this requires some soul searching, going deep into ourselves. Not easy. Fortunately, we have many inspirations and we are in very good company. Let us start with an Italian. My surname is Lavalli. In the first canto of the Divine Comedy, Dante's 13th century, we are not reinventing the wheel, goes through a dark forest, which he calls La Selva Oscura. He goes through the Inferno. He reflects on his past experiences and the mistakes he made and the false notions he had. And when the journey and the canto, that first canto, ends, he sees the sun high up. Now, the sun, what represented God's light. Teilhard, whom Pat mentioned this morning, in Le Millier des Vins, he says we must go into our deepest self. He talks about touring our being, going on a tour of our own being. He describes his own experience. For the first time in his life, he says, though he had always done his daily meditation, he feels that he's going inside for the first time. He picks up a lamp and abandons the secure zone, which apparently seemed very clear, of his work and his occupations, and he went into his inner soul. The deeper he went, he discovered new realities that he had never seen before. And he had never been aware of. They were there, but he wasn't aware. At a certain point he stopped because he felt there was an abyss at his feet and that the soil was sort of melting under his shoes. And from it, he saw life coming up, this new view of life. I will ask you now, we are going to give you some passages. We have to realize that a paradigm change is no easy sailing. It requires soul searching. It requires questioning things, many things. And it requires conversion. And after that, change. We should keep in mind some of the pivotal, now it sounds very remote, but Vatican II meant many pivotal changes. You will receive two passages from Evangelii Gaudium where the Pope refers to Vatican II. And now, we mentioned at the beginning that Jpic is a new paradigm. So, what I will ask you is, during this personal time, try to reflect in yourselves what happened with you and the congregation, especially after Vatican II, and focus especially on the most significant changes brought about by your work on Jpic, which already has quite a few years. And the question is, did those changes come from inside yourselves, or were they just external changes? Angelica always mentions changing the chairs. Instead of sort of stately armchairs, they put common chairs. Well, that is what we call an external change. Do you feel, when you read Jpic, studied it, reflected on it, do you feel you went from head to heart, and from heart to hands and feet? You will have this time, and then we will meet at around 12, and Salome will be in charge of the plenary. And we will try to share what you feel about those changes that were brought about, and sincerely, what changes, I mean deep changes. It is true that we all recycle, that's fine, but that doesn't really, it is important and it's basic, precisely, it's just basic. I mean, that's only the first minute step. So we'll come back at 12 and we'll share this, and Salome will coordinate the plenary. Is that clear? Have I been clear?
Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions? No questions may mean that it was not clear at all.
No, exactly.
All right. Thank you then, and we'll meet at 12.